Hey, it's Brandon here. Before we begin this episode, just want to give you the heads up that the audio isn't the best, so I apologize for that. I was still learning how to optimize my mic when recording more than one person with this one mic. The reason the last episode was decent in audio quality was because Elmer recorded his audio with his own mic over a video call, but hopefully the sound quality won't be too distracting. With that being said, let's do this.
Hey, Patrick, are you angry too?
Yeah,
What's the matter?
I can't see my forehead. What's your problem?
I have a good idea, and no one else thinks so.
All right. Hey, everybody. It is Brandon, and welcome to Would You Like to Continue? So for today's podcast, I have a very lovely, very awesome, pain in my butt special guest,
Hey.
my beautiful wife, Victoria. Say hello, Victoria.
Hi,
How you doing?
I'm good. How are
Are
you?
you sure? You're just saying that just to say it?
Well, now you know.
I know. You make it sound like we just got in an argument or something.
No, we're good. Did we?
No.
Okay.
Currently, we're in our bedroom with blankets and pillows and cushions all around us to try to help with the sound quality
it's
of
okay,
this.
because I said I always wanted to make a fort,
Yeah.
but you never,
Yeah, whoa. I'm a fort person, so for you to just come for me and about forts, I'm a little low-key offended.
You'll be alright.
Okay. All right, so for today, we're going to talk about, if there's a title for this, it would be Empathy, Sympathy, and Apathy. Empathy, Sympathy, Apathy. Try saying that 3 times fast. Go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Empathy, sympathy, apathy, empathy, sympathy, apathy, empathy, sympathy.
I'm going to put in like a beat there or something. That was pretty nice. All right, so
I'm a
empathy,
rapper.
sympathy. Yeah. Elmer will be proud. Empathy, sympathy, apathy. Empathy, what is that? So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Apparently, there's 3 types of empathy. I found this out. So there's cognitive, emotional, and compassionate. Can you guess what these 3 are, Victoria?
So, cognitive
Mm-hmm.
is knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right?
Yeah, it's like
It's just,
knowing. It sounds weird knowing feelings, but like it's like knowing how someone feels. Like I guess having an idea. It's more of an intellectual
Okay,
side.
what's the next one?
Emotional
Emotional is feeling.
feeling, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, feeling how
Somebody
somebody feeling.
with emotions, with the cries and the smiles and the sadness. All right, compassionate.
Compassionate, I feel like, is wanting to completely, like, you completely feel. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. When I was reading the articles about the 3 types of empathy, so compassionate one is basically the emotional one, but with action. It's doing something about it. It's not just you
Yeah.
feel bad for them, but you're compelled to do something.
Okay.
Right? All right. Sympathy is the feelings of pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune. Feelings of pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune. It's understanding between people, common feeling. So sympathy is when you've, I guess, experienced the same thing they've experienced, And so it's funny to use the word pity, because when I hear the word pity, I think of it in such a negative connotation.
Yeah.
People are like, I don't need your pity, right? They get like all
Yeah.
offensive and defensive or whatever, which we'll tackle that a little bit further. Okay, apathy. Do you know what apathy is?
It's like not caring?
Yeah, it's lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. It's the lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. So yeah, it's being numb, I guess, right? Just not giving a crap. All right, so we just defined the 3 Th's, right? Apathy, Jesus help me. Empathy, sympathy, and apathy. Every time I see sympathy, I want to say symphony.
Symphony?
Yeah, instead of sympathy.
Symphony.
Why'd I have to choose such a complicated title? All right.
Because you're a complicated person. Ooh, I'm just kidding.
True. Okay. What can hinder empathy, Victoria? What do you think can hinder someone feeling or thinking about someone else's feelings, or even just the sense of being compassionate towards them? What do you think can get in the way of that?
I feel like one thing that can get away of that is just how have you healed personally from a hurt? Like, have you truly experienced what they were going through?
Mm.
I don't want to go straight into like compassionate, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
more of just like, okay, like for me, like I'm a big feeler, and I like, you know, I feel for people because I've experienced a lot in my life. But it's just, you know, like I think that's why. But I was able to be healed from that by the grace of God through everything. Um, so when someone is going through it, like I'm there for them. But if you haven't been healed, or if you're still holding hurt, like that can have an effect on that.
Okay, so past trauma, offense, or hurt can get in the way of being empathetic, right?
Yeah.
Which would make you more, I guess, apathetic. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's not like fully true, making someone apathetic, because like I feel like some people it's like there's two types of apathy. You know what I'm saying? I feel like
You didn't
there's
explain that part.
no, I'm just me. Just this is coming out of my head. This is coming out of me. But I feel like there's two types of apathy, or like ways to get to it. I think like there's the numb one, where you just experience so much, like an overload, of emotion, or just like trauma, and subconsciously your body develops apathy,
Yeah.
so you don't have to get hurt again,
Yeah.
right? And you don't have to experience that overload. It's like a cap.
Yeah.
But I feel like then there are those who've been hurt, try to forgive, drop the offense, be empathetic, feeling for other people, trying to be there for them, being the compassionate person. And then again, they're betrayed, they're hurt, and it's this cycle of just it not working for them, right? Just
Yeah.
cycle of just things not working. So now they want to be apathetic. They seek it. They're like consciously aware of the apathy, and they attempt to not give an F, or not to give a crap. I think there's those that try to, and those that it's more of a reflex psychologically. All right, do you want to add on to that, or you good?
No, yeah, like I get it. Like it's like kind of like the negative Nancy in the room, but not really, because it's just we get it. Like you've been hurt in a way. I want to say it's like the pessimistic.
Okay.
So it's like you're always expecting something negative to happen. It's like what you said. So it's like if I give you like you give me an empty glass, and I put water in it, but it's not fully there. It's just like I knew I shouldn't have given you this glass because you didn't fill it up all the way.
Okay.
So it's like you're constantly expecting it to be full or overflowed, but it's not always what happens.
Okay, I feel like the reasoning why someone could be a pessimist could tie into this next question, which is, why do you think people say they don't want pity? Why do you believe people would say and get defensive and say, I don't need your pity, or I don't want your pity?
I feel like it could be multiple things.
Okay.
For me, one of the biggest things is probably pride. I feel like someone feels that they could just do things on their own because maybe, again, that they've been hurt so many times in their life. It's just like, I don't need you. So for instance, one thing that I see, I Googled it. You proud of me? I Googled something. So it says like the engagement of like sympathy, or like whatever. So there's pity, sympathy, empathy, compassion.
Okay.
So pity is I acknowledge your suffering. So you don't want just somebody to acknowledge what you've been through. You want someone to help you walk through it. But again, I could be wrong. It depends on the person.
Yeah, and I can see that. I definitely can see that. And I know some people that they play this defensive game, this stubborn, very rejective, pushy kind of game, because they don't want to be a burden. And probably the mix of the pride. But in a way, I guess like low key, they want someone to push further.
Yeah.
That it's like a test. It's like the subtext is you're testing that person to see if they're willing to really push through, to love on you, to walk you through the process, right? Not just feel for you and okay, I'm sorry, and then walk away, but rather let's cry together, let's hang out, let's push through this, let's navigate through that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like pity is like I acknowledge your suffering. Sympathy is I care about your suffering. Empathy is I feel for your suffering. And compassion is I want to relieve your suffering.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Look at that. Drop knowledge.
What's the benefits of being a feeler?
I think the benefits of being a feeler is just meeting someone where they're at. It's like, I think of just Jesus in that way. Like, or even God. For God so loved the world, he gave his one and only son. Like, God cared about us. And he still cares about us. And it's just we're able to meet people where they're at and help them find a solution and know that that what they think isn't the only way out of a situation or the only reason why. Like, does that make sense? Like, that they don't feel like they feel, because sometimes they feel like they deserve what they're going through, but that isn't the case at all, like, all the times. But I think one of the biggest benefits of being a feeler is, again, just meeting them where they're at and understanding them.
Okay, so you're saying being a feeler, it's, I don't know if this is the right wording, but easier to be used by God because you can identify with someone's pain and struggle and suffering, right?
Yeah.
And that you can act on it more. It's like you can see it faster. You see the person alone, that isolated person. You'll notice them more than the popular kid. You'll notice the person who's hurting behind a smile more than other people. Like, it can go over their head, right? Because they're just not aware of it. Maybe they may be very logical, like me, like stuff will go over my head when it comes to certain things, but I can tell, like, I can read you. It's like I can read your feelings in body language and expressions, and based off that, it's like I feel like your feelings are like a sixth sense, like a radar that goes off. It's like, I don't know, I just feel that person's going through something.
Yeah.
Right. And would you say that your faith has influenced you not just being a feeler, but a compassionate feeler, someone who acts on it? Like, you talked about the road of sympathy, empathy, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like because I'm able to use God, like, God is able to help me manage those things, because I don't know if one of the questions that you're about to ask is what are the cons of it.
Yeah, that's the next question. So what's the dark side? No, that's fine. You know, you're flowing, girl. You're flowing. Keep it up. So
one of the cons of being a feeler is that we tend to feel that we need to take the pain on for ourselves. And we don't need to, because Jesus did that on the cross for us. And so there's a lot of times where we could be like, God, just put the pain on me. Just, like, how dare I say that, though? Because it's like I am minimizing what Jesus did on the cross. And that was something that God had to really make me come to a revelation about, because it's like there's a lot of people I care about. I care about you, I care about my family, I care about friends and stuff like that. But it's like, if I constantly bear the weight of what everyone was feeling, I'd be a hot mess. And how can I truly be effective, like, in God using me? Because then at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to dump everything out to just be like, help me, Lord. Like, but then God's just gonna be like, my child, like, that wasn't yours to carry anyways. So I feel like that's just one of the biggest things. Okay, so it's that, like, feelers carry unnecessary weight. Yeah. They don't have boundaries when it comes to feeling, right? All right, that's interesting. I feel like those listening that are not feelers at all, they're gonna be like, hopefully this is, like, insightful for them. Yeah. And it's not just they're clocking out like, oh, I'm not a feeler, so I shouldn't listen. No, that's, if you have that mindset, you got to fix that mindset. Yeah. It's important to have an open mind and to, people, that's one constant in life. There's always going to be people. Your people around you, right? You're born into a family. There's people there, and the enemy is going to trick you into believing you're isolated and you're all alone. But you're a person. So the more you understand people, the more you get to understand yourself. And that's why I love psychology, because I like understanding people. I get excited when I get to learn about the uniqueness and the skills and abilities that humans have, that other people have. I like talents and hobbies. I think I'm attracted to that stuff. So I think that's cool. I love hearing someone just open their heart out about what they're passionate about. Some people annoy me. I'm gonna be honest. Some people are very draining, and so I just one of those people. Yeah. What? Wow. Wow. I'm teasing. No, but like, I feel like, how does a feeler, right, being a feeler, impact your emotional energy tank? But let me just explain emotional energy real quick, just in case someone doesn't know. Yeah. So emotional energy is pretty self-explanatory. All right. Imagine real quick, you have 3 glass cups, and in one cup, it represents time. Okay. How much time? Everyone has about 24 hours within a day, but it may not seem that way because of how often you sleep. There may be things that are taking up your time that are in that cup, right? So you can't put as much water or time in that cup, right? And if your glass is clear, you're self-aware. And if it's not clear, you're not self-aware, right? You lose track of time, poor time management. All right. The second cup is resources, money, internet, library, people, information, all that stuff that you can use, these resources, these elements, these tools
to multiply your time, to manage your time, to go about things in life, etc., etc. Again, if it's clear, you're aware of your resources, you're aware of what you have access to, right? And if it's not clear, you're not aware. You're just, unfortunately, you're kind of ungrateful to the resources you have, and just you're ignorant to it, and not in a condescending way. I don't mean ignorant like you're stupid, but you're just not aware. Okay. And the third cup, which I was referring to, is emotional energy. And that one's a very important cup, because if your emotional energy tank is low, if that glass is low, there are some warning signs that start to show. Some people, they get very snappy, aggressive. They have shorter temper. Their patience is low. Like, sounds like I'm describing me low key, but like,
Yeah.
Everyone's is somewhat. Some people, I know people who their emotional energy when it's low, they're just slow. They're like this. They're dragging their feet, and they just like, no, I gotta get this done. Like, it's somewhat different. Some people can be a little bit of bit of that B word. They can be a little bit just acting up and very sassy.
That's me.
You just say F the world, low key, in your body language when your emotional energy is low. You get very like, I don't care. I ain't, like the extreme side of feeling. Like,
yeah, I was about to say, like, isn't that crazy though? Because like I am a feeler, so then like the opposite of it is just like, I don't care anymore. I'm done with this crap.
Yeah.
But like, again, like I have to channel that and like guard that, because it's like at the end of the day, like sometimes our greatest strength could also be our weakness.
Yeah.
And so it's like just like how I know how to be there for people when they're feeling down or whatever the case may be, or feel for them, like, because I know all those things, like I know exactly how to make them feel horrible. So if I'm not careful with what I say, like that could do not only damage to me, but it could be also damaging to that person, and I would never want to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what are some boundaries and guardrails you set as a feeler to manage your emotional energy tank?
I really try my best to like spend time with God.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, like, he understands all things, even the things that I don't understand. Like, because even like there's times like people feel, and then like I'm feeling like I'm getting what they're like saying, but then like there's times like I get frustrated. I'm like, because again, like I love God, I really really do, but then there's times I'm like, God, why did you let this happen? So like instead of me trying to hold that in, like I have to go to him and be like, God, like you are the creator of all things. And like that is one thing that I really have to do in order to make sure that I don't crumble under pressure, that I'm spending time with God.
That's good. I realize and get to give you a chance to answer the question before I talked about the emotional energy tank. How does being a feeler impact your emotional energy tank versus someone who may not be a feeler?
I feel like there's times, like, depending on the conversation, like, I could tend to feel, like, drained a little bit, because it, like, I put my all into, like, trying to talk to somebody, like, and just being there, but, like, I have to learn, like, again, like, just setting boundaries, so, yeah, like, and just knowing that, okay, like, that, Victoria, you're not in control, God is in control. That doesn't mean to, like, minimize what he has gifted you with. That's not it at all. But it's trusting God that he's going to take care of it, and I'm only his vessel, that he's trusted enough with the feeling aspect.
Yeah. How do you think a person who doesn't have faith or a relationship with God, doesn't really believe in it, or maybe they do, maybe they're agnostic, how do you think someone besides a Christian who spends time with God, or at least attempts to, how do you think they process through their feelings? Like, they try to deal with their emotional energy tank?
I feel like just trying to find a creative outlet. I know many people that, like, not only Christians journal. If you're not in the Christian world, you probably call it like a diary or something, but that's not the case at all. Like, whether you're journaling it out, whether you're like finding a creative outlet, maybe going to a happy place. One of my happy places is the beach, but right now I can't do that because stupid Corona. But I also love nature, so like whether like there's times I'm outside and I'm like, this is nice. or I'm like looking at the clouds. Like that's one way that I feel like even if you're a non-Christian or like you have trouble believing in God, like just trying to find a healthy way out of it because it can get draining. Like, and it's crazy because I had read an article. Um, I had read an article and it was about a nurse or a doctor. And in the midst of this pandemic, like mind you, she loved her job. Like that's what a lot of people had said, that she loved her job, she cared about her patients. But in the midst of this pandemic, it was so much that she ended up committing suicide.
Wow.
And it's crazy because she's someone that needs to feel for others. Like sometimes you think like the healthcare world is like very twisted because all they care about is money, but there's some people that genuinely care about their jobs and genuinely love their jobs, and it's not about a paycheck for them.
Mm-hmm.
And based off of what I've read from that article, like that doctor seemed like someone that she genuinely cared about people, but with the weight of everything, like she crumbled. And I'm not saying like what she did was wrong, but like, man, I pray for her and her family, and I just wish she had like an outlet. And I get it's hard, but you need to find something. Like I feel like if there's anything that they get from me talking, because mind you, I'm not really a talker, but if they get from anything that I'm saying, it's just to find an outlet for something. I know for you, it's video games. And it's like there's times like I just like I want to play Call of Duty with you, but then I have to realize like no, Victoria, like that's his outlet, and you can't like. Of course, like there's times like you'll invite me in, or like if I see that you're not playing, I'll go play. But it's just knowing like you need to find an outlet for things, because if not, like you'll crumble.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I feel like that's something that's not talked about much, emotional energy.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like that's something that's really just spoken into, which is it should be, because we are emotional creatures. Whether you believe it or not, whether you're more of an apathetic person, you at one point you were more emotional.
Yeah.
And just something took that away from you.
Yeah.
And having emotions is good. It's okay. It's fine, and it makes us human in a sense. But we got to be careful not to lean on it gun ho. That we replace our cognitive, or replace our thoughts, our mind, thinking with just feeling. Because the Bible even speaks about how the heart is most deceitful above all things. And I think, like you said, the dark side, you feel too hard. You feel it's your responsibility. It's up to you, that you need to carry that weight. That person, that person's weight, carry it all. And and you get frustrated because it's not working, but God's like, hey, like I never called you to fully carry it. Yeah, to help, do it together. But if I love them so much that I gave them free will just as much as I gave you free will.
Exactly.
And if they don't want to act on it, right? If they don't want to take the help, it's sad. I can imagine God telling us this with tears down his face, but we have to let them do them.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Do you believe there's a difference between how guys and girls, men and female, process through emotions?
Most definitely.
Okay. Go ahead. Explain.
I feel like we live in a society that men feel like they can't express their emotions.
Okay.
And I feel like this goes way back, even way, 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 way back, like forever ago back. Like, if you think about it, like men were like the first ones to be drafted into this army thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were always taught, like, no, you have to be strong. You have to be this, like, macho person of a person. They always, like, and if, like, they saw you crying, it's like, oh, you're such a girl. Like, you can't cry, you can't show emotion. But for females, like, we do feel. Mind you, like, feeling isn't a negative thing. It's something beautiful if it's used the right way. I feel like people have even put a negative connotation on women. Like, oh, you're just way too emotional. Or, like, oh, you're just hormonal because it's your period. Like, no. We feel, and feelings, again, like, it is something that makes us human. If you don't feel, I'm sorry, you're a robot. Feeling is something that is really, really good. But then again, like, you just have to channel it the right way.
Yeah, you have to have those boundaries set when it comes to it. And as you were saying that, what came to mind is I think about some men who I feel like they go more towards a feminine behavior, because they're more emotional. So it kind of, it's like in trying to find themselves, they think, well, if I'm more emotional,
that makes me a woman.
Yeah, and I know this. I'm not saying this is the case for every
Yeah.
homosexual or every feminine man. I'm not saying that, but that's a pattern I've seen in quite a few multiple individuals like that. And the same thing goes with women. Like there's the tomboy, right, or the girl who acts more like hard, doesn't want to talk about their emotions, act all tough, putting up a front, acting like they don't care about things. And it's like the enemy's trying to call men to be all apathetic and call all women to just be emotional wrecks. And sometimes it's the other way around. He wants to push you into extremes.
Yeah.
And so it's just being careful, again, just being self-aware of yourself. You know, is your apathy getting in the way from you accomplishing things that you feel called to? Is your over emotionalness getting in the way of what God, again, is calling you, what you feel this call is drawing you towards?
Yeah.
Your over emotionalness could prevent you from trying new things, could get in the way of you continuing. And with that being said, do you have any final words before we conclude this talk?
Again, it's okay to feel, but sometimes if you feel like you're crumbling under pressure, it's okay to get help. And that's another thing too. Like people feel like you get self-help, like that's a problem. Not at all. Self-help is a good thing. Like
it's the extreme of it,
Yeah.
where you only rely on yourself. That's
Yeah.
the danger.
No, like if you need to go talk to a counselor, go talk to one.
Yeah.
Go find someone that you trust and rely on, like, because it is healthy. You don't want to take the hard way out. I'm about to get emotional just thinking about it. It's just, I have seen so many people that, like, I even think of like Robin Williams, someone that just brought joy to everybody, but they were suffering deep, deep down inside. And it's just, if you feel like any type of way, like, again, it doesn't have to just, you don't have to be just like a feeler per se, like, oh, like I feel for somebody, but like, no, if you're feeling for yourself, like in a deep, like any like type of negative way, go get help, because you can't walk through this life alone. Us as humans, we're created for community.
Yeah.
So go find someone.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, I thought about that pastor who died months ago.
Oh Lord.
He helped people with depression.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, unfortunately, he committed suicide because he was suffering from depression.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy. It's really crazy how that just happens. But with all that being said, for those listening, I just want to encourage you. We want to encourage you, let you know that you don't have to go through your emotions alone. And I know it's hard to trust people, and I know it's hard that some people you feel like you don't want to burden them with the way you feel. There's so many thoughts and excuses and things that can go through your head to try to get in the way of you getting help, but it's okay. We all suck. We all go through stuff in our own way, and it's better doing it together rather than doing it alone. So with that being said, I'm going to ask you this question: would you like to continue? Thank you for watching, and God bless.